Beautiful. I love the concept of light and darkness. Light and darkness, really light parting the darkness of our ignorance. So I wanted to just talk to you guys today really about that duality. That big scientific or weird word duality, it just means two opposites, right? Two beautiful symbols, light and darkness. They've been used for thousands of years through numerous cultures. And I want to read to you. You guys know I've gone through seminary, and you know that I've done a lot of study with biblical stuff and different religions, but I wanted to share with you something because I really want to teach you a lesson about, a little bit lesson about history. This is my nerd moment, right? So I'm going to read to you from the King James Bible that I was brought up on, beat with, right, guided by my family. And I want to show you how, in a couple of different translations of the Bible, terminology is used in different ways, especially light and darkness, okay? So listen up. The book of Matthew, chapter 6, verses 22 to 23. This is the King James Bible. This is probably something you might have read if you went to church and you had to study this. This is what it says about light and darkness. The light of the body is the eye. Notice how I didn't preface with this. Listen to my use of singular versus plural. Okay? The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. But if thine eye be evil, thy whole body shall be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in thee be darkness, how great is that darkness? Interesting. Okay? So I'm going to read to you now from, this is the Lamsa translation of the Bible. This is what we had to go through with seminary. This was translated directly from ancient Aramaic, the Dead Sea Scrolls, right into English, by someone who actually spoke ancient Aramaic. And I want you to listen to the new terminology from the scripture. And it goes like this. The eye is the lamp of the body. If therefore your eye be bright, your whole body is also lighted. But if your eye is diseased, your whole body will be dark. If therefore the light that is in you is darkness, how much greater will be your darkness? Isn't that more metaphysical? Because Jesus taught metaphysics. He just didn't have the word right there. A lot of this terminology from ancient Aramaic is highly symbolic, easily misunderstood and mistranslated. And so the translators just did the best they could when they were creating the original, the Hebrew text and the Greek text and eventually the English text and stuff like that. So you can see how there's some of the mistranslation and misunderstanding of terminology. And isn't it interesting how they talked about the single eye, right? Which eye do you think that is? My little young person over here. The third eye, your astral eye. That's really what it's talking about. But it's talking about your inner nature. It's talking about your inner nature. Your third eye is your inner nature. It's who you are. It's something beyond this physical body. And so it's interesting how it says in the Lamsa translation, come on. If the light that's in you is darkness, in other words, if you walk around negative Nancy all day, then how much greater will be your darkness in life? What is mirrored back to you from the universe when you send out negativity? Negativity. So now you understand what they were trying to say. This is metaphysics 101. This is what they taught us in seminary, which is to dive deep into the symbology and the terminology and really listen to the golden truths that are coming through the scripture. Don't look at it at the superficial level, because a lot of other churches, and it's no fault of their own, they're just not trained. They will look at this and like, oh, it's just some symbolic mumbo-jumbo. Doesn't make any sense. So why are they talking about one eye and not two? Because we understand that Jesus, the Nazarene, was an Essene, that he meditated, he was a healer, he was a mystic. His whole people, his whole tribe, they were all very mystical. So you notice how pure and symbolic that translation is. And that's why we use the George Lamsa translation of the Bible for a lot of our metaphysical teachings and studies. You can find, if I'm from Texas, who was brought up with a King James version, and it's a rough version of the Bible, if I can go back to a Bible and find beautiful truths inside of a Bible, anybody can. Okay? I have faith in you, because I have faith in me. So if I can do that, you guys can. So don't be afraid. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater just because it says Bible on there. There's actually some beautiful lessons of life. Reverend Tim always references, is it Proverbs? In the book of Proverbs, if you're having a struggle in life, you open to the book of Proverbs, and it's just like an affirmation book. It's just like an oracle book. It will tell you exactly how to deal with the situation. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. Okay, now this concept of light and darkness, this came to me a few years ago because a very dear friend who actually walked through those doors, probably about 7 years ago, she brought me some beautiful material by this a being, for lack of a better word, a being called Cryon. Who knows Cryon? There's a good many of you. Good. Well, I didn't know who it was. And I put it on my desk, and a few weeks later I was on a trip to seminary. See one of my fellow seminarians here. And on the airplane, when I couldn't do anything else because I'm the guy in the middle and I'm squished and I can't get to anything, I could reach that little article that I had read in a couple of weeks, and I pulled it out and read it. And all of a sudden, this wave of energy started washing through me, and I started crying. Next, these two guys around me were like, "Are you okay?" I said, "I'm okay." I said, something's touching my spirit." They're like, "Oh, that's really nice." I was so embarrassed. But I was like, why am I crying at 35,000 feet over this material? I didn't know who this guy is, this person is. And then I realized it wasn't a guy. It was actually, Cryon is how do I want to say it? A focal point being, that's the word. A focal point being for a collection of consciousnesses. It's almost like a representative, an ambassador for this church of brothers and sisters. This one person's soul came forward through Lee Carroll, an intuitive, and began presenting all this information. Now, who knew that at the United Nations, Lee Carroll, the gentleman, the human, brought through Cryon, the ambassador in spirit, really, and presented over 10 times in the last 20 years to the United Nations. How many of you knew that? The United Nations in New York City on the east side allowed its leaders of governments and nations and organizations to listen and to receive and to learn and to receive light into the darkness of their ignorance. They didn't know it existed, probably. But Cryon spoke to the United Nations. Cryon. Not even from Earth. Is that in the news? No. That's amazing, though. Cryon's an amazing, you need to look up Cryon on the internet, I'm just telling you. Move my spirit. But it really started something to make me think about, what do I want to talk about today? Because the image of Cryon popped up on Facebook, and I thought, oh, I remember that guy, I remember that whole scenario. And I thought, that's what I'm going to talk about this week, light and darkness. Because so often in our lives, we go through these, and even at work, I had people that were freaking out over some situations that really weren't that bad. From my perspective, I could see a much bigger view, and I knew what was really taking place. They didn't have the whole story, but for them, their life was a hot mess at work. And they were lost in the darkness of ignorance in the situation, but I knew something better is coming around the corner because my leadership at the hospital told me what was happening with the situation. But the other department hadn't been told what was going to be happening. So good things were coming, but they couldn't see that. So all I had to do, I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to be the messenger. I didn't want to be the representative for that. But I basically reminded them, look, you are so much more than the situation. You don't need to fall into the situation. Do you see how it's ruining your day? Do you see how it's slowing down your productivity? Do you see how you've already been called on the carpet because you didn't do your job fully? Because you're so lost in the situation. And they realized, you know what, I am getting lost here. So just a little bit of my shining my light helped them in their day. That Cryon material that I had received and that I'm telling you, it made me brighter, for lack of a better word, right? That material touched my spirit so much it made me cry. I don't usually cry in public like that. I cry in church. I don't cry in public. And so it touched me so much. There were beautiful teachings and truths, and there was so much beautiful light inside the teaching. And I recognized there was something powerful I needed to put on paper because I needed to bring that here, that potential here to change your lives, to share with you all, to show how easy it is to make a difference in your life and in someone else's life. Just by a little bit of perspective, a little bit of light, a little bit of love. Spirit showed me earlier this week, I guess it was Monday or Tuesday, when I was meditating on this sermon to see what else can I add to it, what perspectives can I bring. Come on, Spirit, bring it to me. And you know what I saw? I saw a phoenix. And I saw the Harry Potter phoenix. Because I love Harry Potter. I was like, that's interesting. It's a 5. There's fire, there's ashes, there's birth and rebirth and transformation and light and dark. And it really fit. Isn't that interesting? But wait, for those of you who watched that movie, Harry Potter, you remember that out of those ashes came this little bit of movement. And here comes a beak. I don't know if it was an egg first, but I saw a beak. And then out comes this beautiful bird, and next thing you know, we've got the full phoenix. Right? And so that beautiful symbol reminded me that the phoenix didn't just magically appear, right, onto its little, what do you call it, what does it sit on? What does the bird sit on? Perch. That's the word. Thank you. This phoenix wouldn't just magically appear and sitting on its perch and then communicating or whatever it was doing in the movie. But it was already inside the ashes. The essence of the bird, the essence of the phoenix, the potential of divinity, life, is already in the ashes. What are we made of? Ash, clay, and different components. Right? And so at the very core, we're divinity, we're life, we're God, an expression. The essence of light is already inside me, whether I am a corpse, or whether I'm a living human being, or whether I'm spirit moving through the dimensions. So the essence is always there. It's always there. It's just reborn into a different way. So really, in that symbol of the phoenix, its essence, its light got brighter. And so this beautiful material from Christ, it was not new to me. Right? There was so much material that we had to study in seminary about all these metaphysical teachings and ancient religions and different cultures and in the original nations of different countries and such. Ancient Siberia, going back to biblical times. Mysticism and metaphysics is always there because there's this recognition that divinity is in everything. Divinity is in nature, in the seasons, in the sky, in the light, in the fire, in the earth, in the water, in the ethers. Divinity is always there. So I knew, it wasn't really new to me, but I recognized that there was something transformational because I could see my truth inside that cryon material. I could see there was teaching inside the cryon material. I could see that I could feel it was causing my metaphysical light to burn brighter. Because I recognized something, that's why I was crying. Because I was connecting with the highest and truest part of myself in that moment. It was powerful. And so my goal today with this is really just to help you guys understand that inside of you is a phoenix of light, or a phoenix of fire, however you want to look at that. The potential of your tomorrows is right here, right now, right inside of you. What are you going to do with it? You're going to let it go? You're going to fan the flames? You're going to build that fire? You can't build a fire by just sticking logs on the little burning embers. You've got to fan it. How many of you built a campfire? Right? It'll burn out so quick if you don't fan the flame. You've got to keep feeding it very gently. Gently, and that's a key word. I'm harsh on myself sometimes. I expect a lot out of myself. But I've learned I've got to be gentler to myself, and I'll go a lot further. And just like with that fan, if there's a potential inside of you that you are hoping to achieve tomorrow or in the future, next week, next month, next year, you got to fan it a little bit every day. Because by paying a little bit of attention to it, you'll have a bonfire of potential and outcome in the future. It's really interesting. We, as metaphysicians, we know we're spiritual beings. We're beings of light, beings of energy. We know that. And we understand that this human experience is a very, sometimes ridiculous experience. I call it the roller coaster of life because there's ups and downs. There's turns. Some friends of mine took me to Dollywood last summer, and they couldn't con me peer pressure. I don't like roller coasters. But it was a wooden roller coaster, and how cool would that be, and the clickety-clack, and all this. Well, I didn't realize all the little, I wasn't paying attention to the symbols. What the heck was it, the hurricane? I don't know what it was called. But this thing was the fastest roller coaster in the world. I didn't know that. But I saw these symbols for fast things, and I thought, oh, okay, maybe they're just saying it's a fast roller coaster. Well, that little thing, there were some sharp turns and ups and downs, and I thought, I'm going to fly right off the whole time. I'm not going to go with this roller coaster. I'm going to go out into the air. That's going to be me. I was terrified. It was not pleasant. So what am I saying with life? Why is that important? Because that's really exactly how life is. Yeah, I was locked into that roller coaster. I wasn't going anywhere. I had the harness. You had the little seatbelt. You had all this stuff that they put on you because it was a unique ride. I was like, why are they putting all this extra stuff on? Usually you don't get this. Well, I didn't realize it was a unique ride. And so I believe my human me was seeing me flying out in the distance while the roller coaster was going that way. And why did I think that way? Because I was thinking in my human body terms. I was thinking in the human experience terms. I wasn't thinking in the spiritual, light body, awesome essence of Kevin, in the dimensions of life, that I won't die. I was thinking with the human me. And sometimes that's how we are in life, like that situation at work where somebody was so lost in the situation, the drama and the trauma that was going on, they couldn't see beyond it. But I could from my perspective. Really interesting. You know, a lot of people, this is interesting. I heard this word about 2 weeks ago. We were talking about karma at a local event. We had some great discussions, but somebody mentioned the word, we're predestined. And I thought, no, we're not. It didn't make sense to me. And I've heard before spirits say we are not predestined or predetermined in life. We have an overarching, how many of you have heard this, where we have this overarching blueprint, right, the divine blueprint, or we have a soul contract that is an overarching plan for our life, but it's not all set, the details aren't set in stone, right? Have you heard that? Yeah? I love that. So a lot of people wrongly believe that the human life is predestined or predetermined. In other words, that there's some spiritual course that can be changed. And that's not true. What's interesting is, the truth really is that we're predisposed to a life of ministry, a life of nursing for me, a life of teaching and administration and volunteerism for you, a life of music and development for young and older souls, Reverend Tim. And every one of us we have a life that is predisposed to the potential of music, administration, ministry, nursing, whatever. But the details aren't laid out. Because your free will choice, I just gave it away, I was going to talk about that in a moment. The key is your free will choice. You get to choose how you dress your life. You get to dress it in the Metaphysical Chapel. You get to dress it in working for a special university, Harvard or something unique. How do you dress your life? But it's all through your choices. That's the key to life. Your choices. Do you make the choice to fan the flames of your potential of something that you like, or do you just allow it to, that phoenix to rise on its own whenever it wants to? Right? Maybe it comes too late in life. You don't have the energy to solve to create that special something. And you could have done it 20 years before when you had the potential that was much stronger, much brighter. Think about it that way. Your free will is the key in your choices. It's about acting, reacting, and even the times when we don't choose to act. How many of us have chosen not, especially when the beggars come to the window at the cars, and you're like, I'm not doing it, not doing it, I know I'm supposed to, I'm not doing it. You're choosing to not act to support somebody in need. Be out of judgment, we think they're going to use it for drugs, we think they're going to buy cigarettes, whatever. Those are judgmental calls. Who are we to judge? This taught me a lesson many years ago. Who are we to judge the people that need money on the corners? Is it our job to judge what they're going to do with it, what they're going to do with their life? How about what's more important? The brighter and lighter, the brighter and lighter way of looking at things is to say, you know what? I have an opportunity because I got a whole cup full of quarters here. We all have quarters in our car. I got a cup full of quarters I can give a handful, and I have done my karmic part of supporting another soul. And what they choose to do with the money is their choice. That's their karma. It's their life path, their life decision. That's how they choose to spend the money. It's not my job to judge it, right? Interesting way to look at that. This beautiful buffet of life that's each of us, that really is in each of us. There's this saying that I love, how we say, God, we are God in expression. How many of you like that? Yeah. We are God in expression. Growing up, not in that book, in the King James Version, but in a lot of other versions, I was taught God was up there on the cloud watching me, and the devil was running up to tell him what I was doing wrong. Because I was always doing something wrong, I was told. And so we understand that we are God in expression. That's a metaphysical principle. Did you know that Jesus taught the same principle? He just didn't use those words exactly. Didn't use the symbology exactly. But Jesus' ministry was highly metaphysical. Highly. Jesus taught that we don't die. He was teaching the principle that we have eternal life if we believe in the teachings that he was bringing forward, the metaphysical teachings. Right? And Jesus may have used different terminology that's been taken into a harsher place, let's just say. and nowadays. But really the premise was that we don't die, we're eternal souls. The body may drop away, but the essence of you, Tony, the essence of you, Shivali, you live on. Your consciousness lives on, the essence of your soul. Your soul is the conscious part of you. Did you know that? Your soul is the conscious part of you. And I've gone to some events where they teach you to say, I am God. Right? That's pretty good. Isn't that nice? It's not fully accurate. There's a reason I say that. When we say, I am God, what is taking place is we understand that we have to change our perspective and the view that we are what we really are. Is we know that we are God in expression. A moving God. The universe isn't static. It's always moving. Subatomic levels, universes, everything's spinning, actually. Spinning in that beautiful Fibonacci sequence, that beautiful golden spiral is the word. And so what I want to say is that we are God in expression, but we're going to make that an internal truth. And I love affirmations. I've been doing a lot of affirmations the last 4 weeks. I am beautiful. I love how we do that every Sunday. I am beautiful. I am the God spark creation. What I'm really saying is, I am God in expression. I am the God spark creation. I am your, what do we say? You are my brother. You may have a gender-specific female body, but in essence, you're just you're almost like a flesh suit. I heard somebody say that. It's a flesh suit of you that's feminine, but at your core, you are masculine and feminine. Because we're God in expression, and God is everything. If we're made in the image of God, we are simply light in expression in human bodies. Right? You understand that expression? We're made in the image of God. You're not made in the physical image. You're made in the energetic, spiritual, higher vibrational image. So it has to do, it goes right back to light. And so one of the affirmations that, in reference to what I'm talking about with this karma thing, that I want us to do right now, I want you to just close your eyes. We're going to do it 3 times. And I want you to just embody this saying. Embody this for me. God is expressing, say that in your mind. God is expressing as myself through this situation. Good. Again, in your mind. God is expressing as myself through this situation. Last time. God is expressing as myself through this situation. Open your eyes and come back to earth. Didn't that feel different? Because what you're doing is you're reminding yourself, no matter the drama of the mama, no matter what's taking place in this situation in front of me, good or bad, God is expressing through that situation. It really through me. It's happening for me. That's why I said as myself. God is expressing as myself through this situation. I'm experiencing something that's divinity in motion. Good or bad. We humans label everything. Spirits told us, you guys messed it up with all your labels. It's kind of funny to hear him say that, yes.
I just wanted to say, when you were doing the affirmations, I felt my heart chakra kind of expand.
Where do you think the nature of you resides? In your hands? In your belly? In your heart? For the vast majority of us, when we're connected to the divine part of ourselves, it's our heart. Did you know that the heart is the very first spiritual chakra? It's the one closest to the human body, meaning the throat chakra is a higher, right, spiritual vibration. Your third eye is an even higher resonance of frequency, and your crown chakra is even higher. You've got to do some work to get to the higher crown chakra activation. But for the human body to connect, the first one is the heart chakra. It's the closest vibration to our human body. And that's why it's so easy. We just naturally go there. Did you know that there's more? This is my nerd moment again. There is more electricity generated from the heart than any other place in the body. Not your brain, interestingly enough. In your heart. And that's why they talk about heart math and all of this beautiful, these principles that generate fields of energy. And how I can sense, I need to be in your space, or I need to step away from you, something's not resonating. But I haven't even talked to this lady. I can just feel, because we send out pulses of light and energy. We're always doing We as divine metaphysicians understand there can be no separation between God and nature, us. We are nature, the universe, this space, this air, my sound, my voice, light. It's all nature and expression. And what I want us to understand is that we exist, nature, all of nature exists because of God, but also within God, inside of God. I heard somebody the other day on YouTube, but there's part of the answer. I heard somebody say, oh, the spirit world emanates from the physical dimensions. No, it doesn't. Spirit's told us many times, and it doesn't even make sense logically, how something of a high vibration can emanate from something of a low vibration. Lower vibrations come from higher vibrations. That's how it works. So the spirit world is all that is. God is what all that is. It's a higher vibration. The lower third dimension comes from that expression. Remember how Ms. Tony talked about our declaration of principle number 4 earlier. We believe. How's it go? We believe in personal responsibility, and we create our happiness or unhappiness as we live in harmony or discord with natural, physical, and spiritual laws. So what that's saying is it's reminding us that we have personal responsibility in our lives to take action and even to be inactive, to not choose. We have the right to do what is highest and best. We have that responsibility. And so when we talk about personal responsibility, when we step into that vibration, taking responsibility, we are actually beginning the process of transforming our life. That's life mastery, right? It's the voiding. I didn't go so deep into karma, but when we take action, or when we don't take action, and we choose not to, we create karmic ripples in our lives. And we've got to, those are more weighted, or they can be lighter or heavier. And our choices to serve in a higher vibration raises, basically takes away weight from karma, and our life becomes lighter vibrationally. Literally, physically and literally, but also spiritually. And so when we do good deeds, we basically wipe away karma, and our life becomes a little more blessed, and the opportunities of life begin to flow our way. Great things come our way. I've seen it in my life. We void current and past life karma. And so I want to close with this. I know you know this word, because I hear some of you say it. And I love seeing the little memes on Facebook. Namaste. Remember what that means? The divine light that is in me, that is me, recognizes, honors, and bows to the divine light that is you. How beautiful is that? How gracious is that? How kind and loving is that? And when you go to countries in Asia where they sing Namaste, like Thailand and some other places, and you feel the most incredible, like you're treated like a king or a queen, because the people literally embody the saying, the teachings of Namaste. They recognize that they are something beyond the physical body, that they are the representation of that presence, that essence, that divinity, and they are sharing that life with you, the consumer, the guest in their country. They're sharing the essence of God with another person. So I say to all of you, Namaste.